Verdun is a genius who's currently stuck inside the magic tower known as Behemoran. Apparently, he was captured by his merciless tower master and is being tortured to death. What the tower master wants to extract from our boy is the only thing he's got going for him, his smarts, the knowledge he's managed to gather throughout his life. Right now, he's nothing more than a test subject, a lab rat slowly nearing his death inside this damn place. Verdun has finally figured out the reason he's being exploited like this. It's because he's weak and powerless. To understand how our boy ended up like this, a little backstory is needed. So here's the context. His miserable life started 15 years ago. He grew up in an orphanage because he had no parents and the only long-standing wish he had was to become an incredible mage. In the end, he entered the magic tower as a normal worker just to learn magic. But no matter how hard he worked, he couldn't become a mage. What held him back was something called the growth limit. It was the mage compatibility test he took at the age of 7, which basically meant he couldn't become a mage. That was essentially a death sentence for him whose longtime dream was to become a mage. But even then, he didn't give up on his dream. After all, the only thing he wanted in life was to become a full-fledged recognized mage. So he secretly peeked at the spell books left in the rooms while working as a menial laborer at the magic tower. He also absorbed all the knowledge from the books found in the magic tower's library. Even though he didn't have much magic power, he was confident in his sharp, capable mind. His intelligence gave him the little hope he needed to keep going. A few years passed and through sheer hard work, he finally became a researcher at the magic tower. While working there, his research and new ideas were so smart that even the entire tower was stunned. It was then he realized his intelligence wasn't just some random perk. His genius transcended the norm. He once showed his greatest work to Lucid, the only fellow researcher he had good ties with. Lucid became the first person forced to acknowledge the limitless potential our boy held. It wasn't far-fetched to think he might transcend from menial laborer to scholar of magic, but his dream of becoming a scholar at the magic tower remained just a dream when Lucid backstabbed him. That bastard stole Verdun's thesis papers a day before he was supposed to submit them. He submitted the stolen thesis under his own name to the tower master, claiming all rights for himself. When Verdun reported the theft to the tower master, the master was stunned to realize someone like Verdun was capable of producing multidimensional continuity theory. This bastard was supposed to be the esteemed Bohemian magic tower master known as Balrog Bessius. Verdun had faith the master would serve justice, but little did he know, his exceptional work ignited the fire of greed within the tower master, turning him into a cruel oppressor. Now confined and tortured, Verdun regrets the day he didn't run away and live a normal life. During the day, he's exploited as a laborer. At night, these bastards conduct excruciating tests on him. He was once told to create a magic circle to validate the theory in his thesis. To carry out this experiment, they injected drugs into his veins to observe the reaction in his body. They wanted him to invent a new potion by refining it. All he got in return were threats from the tower master to kill the people he cared about. For him, his life is already over as he was powerless against these beasts. As he lies there, sweet memories from the past flash through his mind. His mind is distorted so much he barely recalls these moments, having no clue what they all mean. The memories show a girl, Rovaline, with whom he made a promise to become a great mage. If only his potential for growth had been a little higher, things wouldn't have turned out like this. But for now, he has no hope other than to admit his death. Then there's this weird creepy voice that haunts him after every experiment. It's a cold voice, like ants talking to him. This voice can tell Verdun hasn't actually lost his will to live, or at least that's what our boy thinks deep down. Those ants start piling up, turning into a mound. For the sake of revenge and survival, the ants suggest he grit his teeth and endure the torture until the very end. Only then will he be reborn. After that, no one will have enough strength to trample on him. He will wield great power and surpass his limits. This creature finally gives Verdun hope that nothing is over yet. He can use the heat of resentment bubbling inside him to sharpen the blade of revenge, and so bro gets to work. He is gonna defy his fate by completing a method of reconstructing the body like no one's ever seen before. By tomorrow, he's damn sure he's gonna break through his limits. The long-desired theory of defying heavens, which would allow him to reconstruct his body, was finally completed. Now all that remains is to put this theory into practice. He's gonna try it no matter what, even if this magicless body shatters in the process. If he is successful, he will be a free man by tomorrow. The long night passed and finally, the day he put his plan into motion dawned. Following the daily routine, those scumbags come to assign him some menial task in the alchemy lab, like mopping floors. He's sternly instructed to scrub the bloodstains off his body and patch up his cuts before showing up at work. The guy keeps berating and talking shit, while our guy just absorbs it all and follows orders like he's told. Later, he can be seen in the alchemy lab cleaning off the equipment. As he's cleaning, his childhood friend, Rovaline, shows up. He asks her why she's here. In response, she reminds him about her plans to leave. Verdun finally remembers she's supposed to move abroad to pursue her studies in the magic city, Verente. That's a special privilege only given to the tower's most exceptional talents. He's really glad for her and hopes everything will go her way. Meanwhile, she looks just as worried about him. She extends her invitation again, telling him to come with her to Verente. Unlike here, wouldn't have to deal with arrogant fools who look down on him. He might find new opportunities to learn in the magic city. For the side note, he'd better not get any funny ideas. She's only inviting him for his own good, not because she likes him or anything. After a moment of silence, Bro finally gives his verdict, a verdict that doesn't surprise me. The girl feels sad about his decision. As he watches her leave through the bars of his window, he's glad she doesn't know what he's been through or what he's been subjected to. Now that she's gone, she won't have to face the collateral damage of the twisted plans he has for this magic tower. Speaking of the tower, the upcoming Magic Festival is the most crucial day for it. It's one of the most globally recognized holidays meant to commemorate the construction of the first magic tower and celebrate the revival of magic. That's why it's the busiest day of the year for the tower. Once the festival begins, the high-ranking mags all leave for the major cities, leaving only the low-ranking ones behind, giving our boy the perfect opportunity to pull off the twisted batshit crazy plan he's been cooking up. Right now, he's on his way to serve the guardian of the treasure vault. After serving the bastard tea, he insists on going inside the vault since the tower master asked him to clean the treasure vaults. Once that arrogant piece of shit reluctantly gives him permission, Verdun steps inside and shuts the door behind him. He makes sure to activate a soundproofing artifact so no sound escapes. This is where it all changes. Once he descends deeper, he comes across the most precious and heavily sought-after artifact. It's said the tower master spent a fortune producing this artificial artifact. It allows a mage to perform triple casting and temporarily awakens the latent talents of whoever wields it. This stuff plays a crucial role in his plan. To get it, he must disable the protective magic circle. It's a 7th tier spell personally created by Master. Verdun's been grinding his ass off studying how to break this spell for the past 7 years. He finally has a chance to destroy the artifact the tower master treasures most. Meanwhile, somewhere in the tower, 2 bozos are drinking and complaining. They are frustrated that while others enjoy the festival, they are stuck guarding the power source. But then again, they can't blame anyone for their misfortune. They drew the short straws themselves. As they are beating themselves up for their rotten luck, our boy visits these drunkards only to get ordered to fetch more booze. As he turns to leave, one bastard mutters about waiting for the day he becomes the tower master, then he won't have to drink this cheap shit. The other isn't so sure acquiring the master's seat is as easy as his friend makes it sound. But it looks like this bastard won't be around to see that day because our guy now has the staff in his hands and he slices that bastard's throat the very next moment. When Greenhead turns towards the source of the deadly blow that took his friend's life, he finds Verdun, much to his shock. Thinking Verdun's just a runt overstepping his boundaries, he decides to teach him a hard lesson by attacking with a rank 3 spell called Tidal Wave. In response, Argyle uses the stolen staff and casts his own spell known as Earth Spear. The spell conjures giant stone projectiles, enough to overwhelm the bastard and take him down on the spot. He has a hard time grasping how someone like Verdun, who's at the bottom of the barrel with rank 1, can even use magic. In response, Verdun doesn't hold back. He stands right in front of the bastard like a goddamn reaper and ends his life for all the trouble they caused him. After killing the 2, he uses their fingerprints to access the throbbing heart known as the power source of the magic tower. It took him 7 years to reach this point. Now using the mana from the power source, he prepares to initiate the spell, Defying Heavens. He's mentally prepared to face the consequences if he fails. No matter how dire the circumstances, that's no reason not to try. After enchanting a magic circle over himself and the power source, he finally initiates the Defying Heaven spell, which will allow him to reform his body. The process begins and magic starts pouring out of that heart. The power source's magic is so intense it can be seen from miles away. Whatever our boy is doing is massive. That's for sure. Even the tower master, who's on his way to the city for the festival, can see the enormous energy from afar. The only thing capable of producing such an output is the power source itself, which means someone has trespassed into his tower and is stealing all the power for themselves. Within minutes, the tower seems to crumble into dust. Beneath the rubble, our boy emerges. The staff he's holding disintegrates into dust as well. Seeing the entire area wiped clean while he's still alive means his plan was a success. Suddenly, he notices something in the sky. It's the tower master, hurtling through the air using magic circles, trying to catch up to the thief who disintegrated his magic tower into nothing. Spotting the criminal amid the carnage, the tower master unleashes one of his offensive spells. But our guy has already vanished using teleportation magic, leaving the annoyed bastard gritting his teeth in frustration. He's so pissed that he starts exuding a malicious magic aura, causing the rocks around him to levitate. Whether it's the Emperor himself or just a child, he's dead set on killing whoever's responsible for tearing down his tower. Morning arrives and the next scene shows the serene quiet snap of the mountains. Deep in the woods, our boy wakes up, bewildered about where he is. As he freshens up with cold river water, he catches a glimpse of his reflection. It shocks him when he notices that his appearance has completely changed. His brown hair has turned ashy grey and his black pupils have shifted to a clear blue. He's not sure if he's become a completely different person or if something happened during his body's reconstruction. Looking back, he clearly remembers taking down the Magic Tower's people before succeeding with defying heavens. Before the Tower Master could react, he escaped using teleportation magic. Now he's somewhere unfamiliar. The plants around him are nothing like those near the Bohemian Magic Tower. This likely means he's teleported across half the continent. In other words, he successfully used defying heavens to transform his body and escaped via the prepared magic circle. A hearty laugh escapes him after acquiring the freedom he had long been denied. He can't help but chuckle, imagining the Tower Master in shambles right now. With the Magic Tower destroyed, the Tower Master won't have any clues about who's behind this mess, nor will he suspect that his lab rat escaped instead of dying like a dog. As big a loss as this is, it's not enough to bring the Magic Tower down from its roots. Though manpower is lust, Verdun is sure the Tower Master has countermeasures. After all, Balrog Bejas, the Tower Master, wasn't called the Omnipotent One for nothing. That said, Verdun is satisfied with the damages done for now. While the Magic Tower rebuilds, he'll grow stronger and prepare his revenge. His revenge will only be complete once he destroys everything Balrog has built. Most of all, Mage Verdun's name will be etched in history if he succeeds. From now on, this story revolves around Verdun's quest for revenge, respect, and the esteem he'll earn as a great mage. That's his sole purpose from this day forward. For now, he sets the tower and revenge aside to focus on his growth. A little later, he stumbles across a creepy green guy struggling to pull a lodged axe from a wooden box. Verdun dispatches the distracted foe with a single blow. Looks like he hasn't made any big breakthroughs in magic yet. His hair and eye color changed, but his appearance is mostly the same. Even his mana capacity hasn't improved. He shifts focus to his surroundings. Goblins are frequent here, so he must be far from the main village. He notices skid marks from a cart and a wooden box that probably fell when the cart sped off. Using mana detection, he follows a string of mana flowing down the road. The cart driver looks terrified as if being chased. To get context, the driver tells how he ran into remnants of bandits supposedly wiped out recently. He even tried negotiating using Baron Pyth's name, but no luck. To make things worse, the mercenaries escorting him abandoned him. But all that trouble was nothing compared to the massive orc who appeared with a sinister smile. While the orc and goblins feasted on bandits, the driver used the chaos to escape. Thanks to those bandits, he got precious moments to flee. Suddenly, hears a sinister growl of some monster closing in, and he panics, whipping his horse to gallop faster. Looks like his luck has finally run out. His cart hits a thick root, causing it to lose balance and roll over. He scrambles to his feet, only to find a pack of bloodthirsty eyes staring back. The monsters emerge from the woods craving human flesh. The poor man trembles, ready to die a pathetic death as their lunch. The monster lunges while the poor guy closes his eyes, bracing for the worst, but luck hasn't fully abandoned him. He's shielded by familiar earth magic, casted by our boy, of course. The dumb creatures turn their attention to their next target, Verdun, standing on top of a monolith. Guess this is the perfect chance to test his abilities, starting with these brainless monsters unknowingly charging to their deaths. He fires multiple flaming arrows, setting many of them ablaze, burning them to a crisp. The giant orc pack leader growls angrily and orders a second charge. As the next wave rushes forward, Verdun tries double casting for the first time. He combines an electrified arrow spell with his fire spell, a double cast known as Heat Wave Arrow. The relentless barrage ends with a massive blast shaking the entire area, leaving every goblin burned to ash. Verdun is surprised by the result, especially since before the body reconstruction, he wouldn't have killed a single goblin on his own. Now it looks like none of them are left. Verdun then turns his attention to the carriage driver trapped inside the protective earth dome, likely struggling to breathe with all the oxygen cut off. But as Verdun is momentarily distracted, that orc bastard still clings to life and tries to sneak up on his prey. Though caught off guard, the orc isn't nearly strong enough to take down our boy. A while later, the carriage is remounted to the horses and the owner, grinning like a kid in a candy store, showers Verdun with gratitude. Because of Verdun, the guy is still alive, so he offers him a free ride. Still, the driver insists this isn't nearly enough to repay the favor. Verdun just tells him to keep his eyes on the road, or else he might end up flipping the carriage again. But the guy won't stop yapping, asking all sorts of weird questions in his upbeat mood. He talks so much that he unintentionally steps over Verdun's last nerve. His mind is still reeling from the nerve-wracking encounter with that orc's sneaky attack. After answering one of the driver's questions, Verdun asks if thieves appear often in this area. Usually, nose thieves avoid places where dangerous beasts roam. The carriage owner reveals this was his first encounter with monsters. The forest, he explains, is under the control of a hotshot named Baron Pyth. Since childhood, the driver has had good ties with Baron Pyth, who assured him thieves in the area were already dealt with. That's why he took the usual route without hiring expensive mercenaries. Verdun's gotten a few clues. At first, he thought his teleportation might have failed, but if he's in Baron Pyth's territory, he's arrived at the right place. Although he erased all traces that might lead his enemies to him, it's still possible the Bohemian Magic Tower suspects him as the one behind the destruction and could be searching. So despite his changed appearance, he has to hide his true identity and grow stronger. With that in mind, he introduces himself with a new name, Asher. The only time he'll use Verdun again is in a one-on-one showdown with the Magic Tower Master. Cut to Baron Pyth's estate in his territory. Baron Pyth and his servants look bewildered to see the carriage driver, Conrad, in such rough shape. Ever the cheerful man, Conrad explains his condition resulted from fleeing orcs. No apology from Baron Pyth could undo the trouble Conrad endured. Not only did thieves attack, but he also faced an unexpected encounter with orcs. Conrad assures his friend not to feel responsible. Baron's attention then shifts to the mage who likely saved Conrad. Seeing the savior, Baron Pyth invites Asher inside to receive the hospitality he deserves. A while later, Asher is dressed in new clothes, thanking Baron Pyth for the food, shelter, and a place to call home for the night. The Lord is happy to serve Asher with the best of what he can offer. Suddenly realizing he hasn't introduced himself, the Baron formally introduces himself as Baron Pyth Henrod, ruler of these lands. A lavish spread of dishes fills the table. Baron is generous enough to offer a reward of 5 million elk to make sure Asher is properly compensated. Then the Baron makes an unusual request. Though it seems like a strange time to ask, he desperately wants to hire Asher for a job, promising handsome pay. Since Asher needs money to achieve his goals, he sees no reason to refuse. Plus, it will give him a chance to practice his magic in real combat. He inquires about the nature of the job. Baron explains that a few days ago, bodies were found hanging from their necks in the southern forest. A private investigation revealed all the victims were residents of a nearby farm town now in ruins. At first, they suspected bandits. But after searching, no trace of bandits was found. It was as if magic had erased all evidence. Hearing this, Asher suspects the bandits may have a mage among them, though it's just speculation. He asks when the hunt will begin. Baron says it will start in 4 days. 4 days pass like a gentle breeze, and a party forms to accompany Asher on the mission. A senior knight introduces himself as Enoch, the commander of the operation. His subordinates include Harris with black hair and the young parrot. Meanwhile, Asher feels utterly fooled for being roped into this bandit hunt by the cunning Baron. He asks about some men standing in the background, questioning if they are part of the mission. Turns out they are adventurers, drawn by rumors of a strange orc recently spotted. The payment for killing the orc is so high that even gold-rank adventurers have shown up. Apparently, gold-rank adventurers are on par with ordinary knights, skilled veterans trained in channeling energy to strengthen themselves and their weapons. Rumor has it these veterans can cut down entire mountains. Here's the important thing to note. Since these knights and adventurers still need Asher's help, something fishy must be going on. As they trek through thick woods, Enoch insists Asher inform them if he spots a mage among the bandits. Normally, Tier 2 mags match knights in strength, but their long-range spells make it tough to close the gap. The best case will be if there are no mags involved. But Enoch's worst fears come true when they find a magic circle ahead. Asher uses a spell to dispel the camouflage hiding the giant circle beneath. Everyone is astonished. The first spell Asher took down was a simple camouflage, while this massive circle is a warning signal to others. Asher orders everyone to step back and moves forward alone, taking the warning circle down instantly. Enoch is utterly amazed after watching Asher destroy the magic circle like it's nothing. Now it all makes sense why Baron wanted Asher on this mission. Not to mention the knights are utterly helpless against long-range attacks. On that note, let's talk about the concept of explorers or adventurers. They are supposed to be a part of a guild independently taking commissions across the land. Their job is to explore unknown or dangerous territories, and an important aspect of that job is monster extermination. Pretty simple, right? Of course, these people traverse a dangerous path, always facing life or death situations. But it's because of that risk, they are admired by people all over the world. After all, if an adventurer has skill, naturally, they'll become wealthy and famous as a result of their quests. At the same time, there are occasions when adventurers independently have faced so much death and insane life experiences that the end result is for them to end up as crazy people. These corrupted adventurers have lost the ability to control their emotions, and because they are consumed by a desire to take blood, they shift their targets to humans. These people are known as the bandits of this world. Speaking of bandits, 2 of them are out here annoyed that they've cut losses from Baron Pyth's raid party. Not to mention the fact that they are now having to deal with monsters like orcs and goblins. They are also running low on food, making it a troublesome fight for sustenance. The leader roars at his men for sitting around looking pretty and orders them to hunt animals down for food. Let's go back to our group who are secretly watching the scene of the bandits unfold. The knights are waiting on Commander Enoch's commands, who is the most experienced of the bunch. Enoch prepares his blade, believing that this is the best moment for them to strike, especially when their leader has sent away his men to hunt. However, our boy ushered them to reconsider their goal. While he's only supposed to act as an insurance against the enemy mage, Verdun believes that it would be reckless for them to charge in when they have no idea of what their enemies are like. After all, if the enemy mage does end up possessing a magic circle above Verdun's, their efforts will fail. Though his concerns are understandable, Commander Enoch is worried that the bandits will start mobilizing soon, so they need to act now. To that, Verdun reveals that there may be one solution to their problems. Going back to the bandit leader, he's annoyed that their efforts of exploration just resulted in a waste, not to mention the fact that he lost one of his newbie recruits. His mage friend thinks that Varia is whining a bit too much and argues that they should focus on a solution instead. After all, not a single one of them could have predicted that a monstrous orc would pop out of nowhere to kill some of their men. The bandit is astonished by the experience because it's unusual even for an explorer. The only reason he ended up getting caught up in this shady business is because he killed a teammate for the sake of money. Varia recommends his mage friend, Vilshan, that they should attack another village instead. But, clearly, he hasn't thought anything through, as the Baron is already pissed for their heinous display of corpses last time. Then there's the fact that they've been covering their tracks thanks to the wonders of concealment magic, but they can't stay stuck in one place forever and need to get the move on to someplace else. The mage recommends a city called the Marts, which isn't that far away from this forest. Just as they are discussing the plans of annihilating the village close to the city, a powerful beam grazes past them and detonates upon coming in contact with the land. The mage was successfully able to cast a barrier, preventing them from taking damage. An explosion out of the blue wasn't out of their bingo cards. Vilshan reveals that they've been discovered and that this is an ambush. Speaking of which, the 2 knights under Commander Enoch's command have made their move already. Their combined attacks easily overwhelm Vilshan's defensive barrier, knocking them out of it. The enemy mage is hit with a heavy strike, causing his friend Varia to worry for his condition. The good thing about the mana barrier is that as a defensive tactic, it can be cast easily. The bad thing, however, is that it can also be shattered quickly. Right after shattering a barrier, the toll on the caster is huge. The one who's sharing this knowledge is none other than our boy, who stuns them with his presence as a mage. Thanks to Verdun's plan, they now understand that it's going to be easy to dismantle the mage alongside their enemies. Commander Enoch is hoping for their mage to go all out, while Varia is on the back foot, realizing that the Baron is so pissed that he isn't in the mood to spare their lives. The fact that he went on to hire a powerful mage speaks volumes. The stubborn bandit refuses to cave in and surrender defeat, swiftly rushing in for an attack. Commander Enoch's blade clashes against Varia's, who chillingly declares that he'll slaughter them all and return their heads back to the Baron. The Gigachad commander takes it as a cute insult and even encourages his opponent to try his best to achieve such a goal. While they are having their sword battle, Verdun is busy chasing after the enemy mage who is prioritizing running away. His plans of escaping are foiled because our boy is hot in pursuit. Vilshan finds it convenient that the annoying mage facing him is spamming the ability Earth Wall. Knowing that only third circle mags have the ability to use flight magic, he suspects that Verdun must be nothing more than a second circle mage. This gives the dude enough confidence to hurl a multi-ice arrow spell against his opponent, hoping to take him down in a direct confrontation. The arrows are speedily advancing towards our boy, while Vilshan thinks that killing a dude like him will be a piece of cake, or so he thought. Because Verdun literally pulls out a direct counter to his spell, the multi-flame arrow spell. The arrows of fire and ice clash against each other, cancelling each other out in a massive collision. By the end of the attack, we can see a giant-esque crater left scarring the earth. Vilshan is rather impressed that the second circle mage is keeping up with him to this degree. At the same time, he pities Verdun for being unwise about picking his opponents. It would have been a smoother battle for him if he took on Vilshan with one of the knights by his side. But from the looks of things, even whilst injured, Vilshan seems confident in his ability to take down our boy. Verdun, on the other hand, emerges from the smoke, confidently stating that he has no intention of letting him escape to begin with. The enemy mage commends the young man for being capable of using complex attribute magic, believing that Verdun is a gem of talent and an unordinary magician. However, Vilshan isn't in the mood to play games. He thinks that Verdun made a serious mistake and likely didn't anticipate getting destroyed by his opponent. Saying so, the guy unleashes third circle ice magic called the Falling Ice. Basically, imagine a damn glacier falling on top of you because that's what this spell is about. The dude is confident that our boy won't be able to survive this attack. The oversized ice cube makes contact with Verdun, but for some reason, nothing happens. Vilshin is starstruck, not knowing what the hell happened. From the looks of it, his opponent has successfully stopped his spell. It's thanks to Verdun erecting dozens of earth spears, preventing the spell from making contact with him or the ground. Dude is chilling without any problems. Invoking the spell's name and squeezing his fist, the mage is able to shatter the block of ice without any trouble. The mere usage of the spell Earth Spear has the blue boy over here shocked. He can't believe that a second circle magician is able to tap into spells beyond his control. To that, Verdun helps him a little with his understanding of him. Gathering ice in his hand, he stuns Vilshin with his command over 4 attributes. A merciless spike of ice impales Vilshin's body, and in his final realization, he acknowledges that his opponent has been playing him from the start. With the enemy mage killed, Verdun appears unfazed, believing that it's a good thing for him to have participated in this quest. Speaking of fighting, remember the maniacal orc that the bandits were talking about a while ago? Yeah. That villainous bastard is actually munching on humans and wearing the necklace of the explorers, and something tells me he wants more. Let's go back 2 days into the past. Verdun likes to be prepared. And so before leaving for the quest to take down the bandits, he created a medicine thanks to the ingredients he stole from the magic tower. In his own terms, he calls it the magic circuit delator. When you think about the life he's led as a human test subject for the experiments of the tower, you may be thinking that he doesn't want to be anywhere near that life anymore. However, just for this medicine, he injected it into his body. The result, pure agony. Verdun was screaming. He was howling, roaring in pain, but it's only thanks to his hasty experimentation that he was able to enter the ranks of the third-tier magic. Back to the present, we have him funnily concluding that Vilshin is dead as if he didn't just impale the dude with a giant spike. But this is the only way for him to gain accomplishments in the eyes of the explorers, which will help gain the trust of the Baron in the long run. Noticing the magic wand in Vilshin's hand, our boy decides to pick up the shiny object and inspects the item with his appraisal spell. Important information about the wand reveals that it's actually a modified stone wand, which decreases the casting ability and increases efficiency of ice magic. From the buffs mentioned here, Verdun thinks that it'll be useful for him to keep this. Perro comes rushing to find their new mage, explaining that they were worried about him after taking care of the bandits. Verdun apologizes for taking his time and shares the circumstances of Vilshin's powers resulting in a lengthy battle. Perrick understands his concern right away because he can tell from the craters left on the battlefield that it was a tough fight. The surprising part to Verdun is how the knights easily took care and dismantled the bandits in the short time he was beating one mage. Perrick happily expresses that the only problem left is their leader, Varia, who Enoch is still busy facing, but he thinks the fight should be finished by the time they get back. While collecting the corpse of the mage, Perrick turns back to answer a curious question from our boy. Verdun is afraid that he might be stealing something from the bandits without permission, but to that, Perrick freely shares that they are allowed to keep anything worth the find. If it's irrelevant to the mission, he can keep anything. This is great news to the magician who is grateful to Baron Pyth's kindness. Thankfully, he can now use this wand without worrying about getting into trouble. Regrouping with the rest of the team, he is commended by Commander Enoch for his valiant efforts in ensuring the success of the mission. The mage argues that it's actually him who found this as a learning opportunity. As for the captured Vaga, Bro's face looks like he's seen a ghost. He can't believe that his friend was killed in battle, especially since he was a competent mage. The detained bandit knows that if the Baron sees them, he's going to order an immediate execution, meaning death is the only outcome left for them. He doesn't want to die in a shitty place and has ambitions to pursue. Varia secretly unties himself and realizes that his only ticket out of here is to escape. Suddenly, Enoch and Verdun hear the screams of their men getting butchered by the enraged bandit. Varia is pissed and has set his eyes on killing the knight, believing that it's the only way for him to safely escape without Vilshin's protection. His plan is to steal the horse and make an immediate escape, and so Varia's blade clashes against Enoch yet again. The psychopathic bandit attempts to drive a blade in his opponent's face, but the experienced commander grabs his hand before using his other arm to grasp Varia's collar. Before the guy is even able to comprehend what's happening, the bandit is slammed into the ground, unable to believe that a knight threw away his weapon just to execute a grapple. With the wind knocked out of him, the bandit can't do anything more than be detained by the guards. He roars at Enoch for having no pride as a knight. In response, the commander laughs, questioning what he really means. After all, pride is something to be enjoyed by the living only. Stating that, he aims his blade right for the bandit's head before driving it in his head. A sharp stab and Varia is dead. His drenched corpse is dragged away to be disposed of, while Enoch apologizes for showing our boy such a gruesome scene. The knight didn't really want to stab him like that, but ultimately felt that he didn't have much choice. Instead of feeling terrified, Vidin simply commends the knight for his ability, but he also doesn't get why the rest of the bandits are only restrained but not killed. The commander shares that it's actually because they recently learned about some of the bandits sharing a connection from a nearby attack. They think that these guys must have been held hostage, which is why they want to bring them back for interrogation to properly decide their fate. With their job finished, the knights direct the guards to return to the castle with the bodies of the bandits. One of the guards is busy dealing with one of them when a second bandit bolts away to save his own life. One of the knights decides to chase after the guy until he is stopped by Verdun, who suspects that something about the situation just doesn't seem right to him. Right as the bandit disappeared into the forest, they heard his cries, pleading and begging for help. The situation is even more complicated when a foul stench of blood coats their surroundings. Clearly, there is yet another enemy they haven't dealt with. A projectile aimed at one of the knights is quickly blocked by his sword. It bounces away, leaving drops of blood with every bounce, and that projectile is horrifically revealed to be the bandit's severed head. Now that's a bone-chilling encounter right there. From the forest emerges a large shadow that dwarfs the entire group in sight. Some of them can't even comprehend that an orc of this size is real. Vidin, while troubled, argues that the only outcome is that none of the explorers were capable of beating such a thing. For the grand reveal, we see the muscular behemoth rearing a giant blade and staring its prey down. Its sheer size makes the group wonder if they can even classify a monster like this as an orc. To make matters even worse, there isn't just one of these bastards, but at least a few dozen from the looks of it. However, one thing is for certain. Vidin knows that this nightmarish creature must be the leader of the group. It bears a resemblance to the orc that he saw before. These orcs characteristically share an evil smile because of their protruding long teeth from the sides of their mouth. Then there's the fact that this red one is even bigger than the normal ones. The only explanation: this creature is an evolved beast among the rest. Their fight for survival starts off when the red orc commands its minions to charge towards the humans. As a countermeasure, the leader of the knights quickly prepares his group for a defensive position. They want to focus on the minions first and then take care of the boss afterwards. But before Enoch can even prepare himself, the monstrous orc powerfully swings his giant blade with such might that it sends the knight flying from the sheer impact. Reduced to a vulnerable position, the knight faces his doom as the red orc advances to stomp him beneath its foot. But it is then the other two knights chime right in, slashing the creature's foot to the point that it is forced to fall back. While it is still staggered and weak, Sir Enoch unleashes himself upon the creature's chest, stabbing its skin and then slashing it all the way down for an even more painful attack. The monster collapses to the ground. You may be thinking that this is the end, that the fight is over, but then this guy starts laughing even in his near-death condition. What he does is grab one of its goblins and literally bites it in half, leaving the knights horrified for the kind of creature they are facing against. With the goblin fully devoured and its energy consumed, the red orc switches its battle position, psychotically preparing to take them down. Enoch's main group is baffled by the fact that this creature possesses self-healing properties, which means they are gonna have a tough time dealing with the boss. The horrific screams of the creature surround the atmosphere as Commander Enoch creeps everyone in his group to fight. The monster begins round 2 by chucking away its sharp weapon as a heavy projectile. This weapon literally catches up to one of the knights with such fast speeds that is barely able to catch it at the last second. It begs the question how an orc gained the intelligence to throw its weapon so precisely. To make matters even more terrifying, the blade is so overwhelming that it shatters the knight's swords to pieces. The chipped pieces of the sword scar his face, and once again, you guys might be thinking this is as far as it goes. But, no, the giant weapon literally takes a piece off of Harris's body, distracting Pyth to the point he can't focus on his side of the battle. The amateur knight didn't even sense the orc lunge so fast towards him. Still, as best he can, Pyth uses his full strength to swing his weapon, hoping to slash the creature's hand down, or so he thought. Because astonishing as it sounds, the blade couldn't even tear apart the orc's flesh. Pyth is in jeopardy as the creature casually uses its other hand to try and squash him, the tiny human. But, thankfully, our boy pulled up with another earth spell to combat the orc and keep it busy for a while. He then calls Pyth to retreat safely, which the knight quickly does by dashing back. Though he may have survived, the next question is, how the hell do they beat this thing? Pyth is at a loss because he doesn't even have a sword to fight with. Based on what happened, Verdun analyzes that the red orc probably got a recovery speed buff right after ingesting one of its goblins. The buff is so powerful that even Pyth's full-strength effort to cut off its arm proved meaningless. It's the first time they've encountered an orc of this level, making them question if this creature is a mythological one that is out of their league. However, the mage counters that it's nothing like that despite its freakish strength. Reflecting about the creature's consumption and regeneration ability, Verdun assesses its strength, noticing how it also has an influence over the smaller monsters of its kind. Then on top of that, it even has the sheer force to combat experienced knights. From every situation imaginable, this orc isn't your average Joe. He's literally the Darth Vader of their group. However, even from this perspective, Verdun strongly believes that calling it a special entity would be an overstatement. Let's talk about the limitations of normal magic for a second. You see, the more mana that is imbued in each spell, it still can't reach beyond a certain threshold. Beyond a certain point, the magic spell is destroyed. That is the rule of balancing for magic. However, among these spells, there exists one without any limitations for that same rule. Activating geographic manipulation, Verdun shifts the circle in his grasp, unleashing an earthquake as the literal terrain is altered. The guards are horrified, thinking that yet another disaster has struck upon them. They were just in the middle of facing an opponent out of their league, and now they are facing an earthquake. Luckily, Enoch becomes the voice of reason for his men, declaring that it's a spell from their mage who is trying to protect them. Though his words echoed throughout the battlefield, even the commander of the knights knew that remaining calm in this position would be damn near impossible. The reason he said that is because our boy literally erected the land from which they stood upon, destroying the arena and plunging every last one of the orc's forces. The red orc growls at his confusion, spotting the mage far above who has an incredibly powerful fireball spell active. Invoking third-tier magic once again, Verdun releases the fireball, grilling the monsters alive. The sight is one of hope and victory for the humans. Peric is celebrating seeing the monsters get humiliated in such a way. It's satisfying to see such a turn in battle. While this is happening, the mage internalizes how his geography manipulation spell is devoid of any limit. At the same time, none of the mags ever bother using this spell as their primary magic attack. The reason is tied to the fact that it consumes an enormous amount of mana for its casting, making its utility worthless in comparison. Unfortunately, the same issue is something that even our boy struggles with. He laments the fact that he doesn't have enough mana to initiate a power beyond the third-tier magic. Even this current version of the spell is underwhelming to him. Suddenly, a haunting growl captures the group's attention. They are seriously shocked that the behemoth is not only still alive, it's actively chomping down on its own foot soldiers to continuously heal and become stronger. Peric is scared shitless and hides behind the mage, while Verdun decides to go for a different approach than using fire magic. Invoking the power of water magic, he releases a spell called Wave. The heavy weight of the wave staggers the giant monster. This allows Verdun the opportunity to cast a secondary attack, one that involves risk since he dismounted from the safe spot. He actually uses the multi-ice arrows in conjunction with the wind gust spell, heavily amplifying the original spell. This time, Verdun intends to freeze the bastard down. The double casting ability formed through the two spells is called Bitter Cold Arrows, and it streams down chunks of ice spikes, freezing the minions of the Red Orc into place. But the terror of the Red Orc doesn't end there. This guy just doesn't want to die as he survives the freezing attack and aims to crush the mage with its hand. Verdun manages to evade the heavy slam, reflecting that despite the creature's commendable regeneration factor, there's only a limit to what it can do while it is fully frozen. Popping up from his blind spot, Verdun releases yet another ice spell called the Frozen Orb. Now this attack definitively ended the battle, resulting in an ice statue of the Red Orc, resulting in the victory of the clever mage. I just find it impressive that they weren't able to kill the guy. This monster is genuinely a freak of nature and one of my favorites in recent stories. Anyway, back to the magic city of Arente. We come to find that the people are discussing shocking news of the magic tower being temporarily closed. There are rumors that the tower's main energy source exploded, but not everyone believes that. The interesting thing is how many of its mags vanished and the tower stopped functioning in its entirety. Then there's the fact that the explosion and the damages caused were so massive that it's hard to believe that the energy source is the only thing that played the part. Some of the public believes that perhaps it was a punishment from the heavens or maybe something planned by a traitor from the inside. When the old man throws out a suspicion that maybe the Bohemian magic tower was bugged or sealed, his words catch a certain mage's attention nearby. The old dude is still going on about how it would be impossible for the magic tower to just seal itself. He shares his wild theory about the secret experiments being conducted inside the tower and that it was annihilated because of the fact. Mustache guy ends up getting his coffee spilled with the way the mage grabs him, ordering him to repeat what he just said. He's out here looking confused until the familiar mage unveils her cloak, revealing herself to be Rovalyn, who is furious upon hearing what happened to the magic tower. In the next scene, celebrations are underway for the successful subjugation of the bandits. The victors and the heroes have returned to the Pyth territory. Baron Pyth was so impressed by the news that he threw a banquet in celebration. The best part, there wasn't a single major casualty from the squad's side. At first, our boy is nowhere to be found, but then he pops up with all his drip points maxed out. He may be late, but remember folks, good things take their time. Verdun's late arrival doesn't matter because the drunk Baron is so happy that he doesn't care. Our boy is thankful for the pleasantries and shares that he wasn't expecting even the lowest-ranking soldiers to be invited to the banquet. To that, the Baron insists that status doesn't matter when a man defends his territory. I have to say that it's one of the most refreshing things I've heard in a story. The Baron curiously asks about the situation of the bandits. Although they were tasked on a subjugation mission, even Baron Pyth understands that Verdun and his group face tremendously powerful enemies on that mission. The mage confirms this fact, agreeing that they are not your typical bandits. With the kind of skill these guys had, Verdun strongly believes that they could have easily lived a comfortable life if only they had chosen a different path. And although he doesn't mention it here, it makes sense considering that these bandits were fighting for the good at some point. Back to the story. The Baron expresses that he actually ordered an investigation on the criminals. According to that report, these bandits were wanted criminals. Previously, they boasted a life of gold-rank adventurers, explaining just how powerful they are. But, unfortunately, a couple of years ago, one of them decided to kill a teammate on a mission. And in order to escape the consequences of his actions, he fled the place. Shortly afterwards, it became impossible to follow them and track them down. But now it's clear that they formed a bandit group together and ended up in Baron Pyth's territory until eventually they were taken care of. Verdun reflects the importance of a gold-rank adventurer. You see, the gold rank is actually the fourth highest rank among the adventurers, obtainable only after completing an absurd number of missions. With that information in mind, it doesn't appear unrealistic why these guys had an enormous bounty of 10 million elk on their heads. Apart from that, our boy now understands why the Baron looks so satisfied. It's actually because of Verdun's intervention in the mission that they were able to clear the subjugation, get rid of all the bandits without any serious casualties. Without him, things would have ended a lot worse. The funniest thing is how the Baron is looking at Verdun like a princess in love. His happiness is off the charts. He emphasizes that the admirable mage didn't just defeat the powerful bandits, but also took care of the demi-humans for them. It's because of Verdun's valiant efforts that even the Adventurers Guild acknowledged him and sent their regards. Long story short, our boy has become a celebrity in a short time. The hilarious part is that he was only doing what he was tasked to do, so maybe the Baron really is too drunk to think clearly. The man himself actually admits this fact and goes on to address Verdun with seriousness. First, he thanks the mage for the services he rendered, which secured the safety of the defenseless villagers. It's because of that they were able to give proper funerals to victims of the bandits. The knights as well as their master are all in awe, and they raise their drinks to commend the great mage Asura, the hero who saved the Python territory. The entire banquet shares the same sentiment. Recalling the end of the banquet, Verdun remembers that it ended quite differently from the way he was treated back in the magic tower. This banquet didn't care for one's status. Instead, it allowed for a space where everyone could celebrate equally. Sometimes in life, it's not always about us. It's also about the people around us who contribute to our happiness. Verdun shares this feeling, being treated differently from the distant and harsh atmosphere of the magic tower. Instead, this place was warm, something that welcomed him and showed him his place. Ever since he escaped that nightmarish tower, it was the first time ever that the mage was able to laugh with all his heart. What a warm moment. But, of course, it's not a happy ending yet. Because while this was happening, no one could have ever predicted the incoming collapse of the Bohemian magic tower. Let's go to that side of the story for a minute. Rovalyn has returned to the magic tower, astonished to find that it's still in one piece. And, yes, I know you guys missed it. The one piece is real. Anyway, she's beaming with happiness because the tower being intact disproves all the rumors flying around. A man asks her about her sudden return from Varente. She shares her concerns after receiving the news of the tower's destruction and how the disruption devastated the landscape. But apparently, nothing like that is the case now that she's confirmed it with her own eyes. All this excitement makes her want to meet Verdun, the one person she cares about in this tower. But hearing his name, the man points her to a direction where the crowd is. In front is a missing persons list, and on that list, Verdun's name is included. Rovalyn's world shatters upon the realization. When she sees all these people missing, most importantly, Verdun, someone who was working on duty until he was exposed to magical energy, many presume him to be dead. It's kind of like a situation where a nuclear bomb goes off. His body is listed as unrecoverable. Anyway, Rovalyn's body is shuddering in turmoil and a list of questions. In a quick flash, she remembers her past conversations with him muttered in the background because of his decision to stay in the tower. It seems unfair to her that they were never going to meet again. It's unacceptable for things to have ended the way they did. The despairing feeling turns into physical and emotional agony, causing her to weep for her friend's demise. The woman goes batshit crazy, unable to accept that this is the way things are going to end. Funnily enough, she actually family zones him in this speech. I guess it's gonna be like Eren and Mikasa. But, yeah, her outrage is uncontrollable as she erupts in denial. Before she unleashes any destruction, Sir Valdek comes to console her, advising the young woman that there's no point in getting angry at others. He finds her in a miserable state as Ravelin is shrinking in defeat, questioning what the hell happened at the tower. First, he comforts her, then he explains the situation, talking about how the power source went berserk conveniently at the time where the high-ranking mags were away to attend the magic festival. With the power source bursting into destruction, every single person who protected the power source was decimated. But lives aren't the only thing they lost. Years of important research gone in the blink of an eye as the records vanished. Not just that, the treasure vault was also damaged to a considerable extent. It's a total loss as everything that was inside the vault containing spell books and important artifacts, all of that is now no more too. Sir Valdek is enormously frustrated. After everything he feels pissed about, the greatest loss according to him is the loss of his experimental test subject. Of course, he doesn't tell a word of this information to Rovelin, but in his reflection, he pities being unable to recover Verdun's brain so they could have contained some of the damage. Damn. This crazy guy was planning to create another Einstein situation by extracting his brain. Anyway, Sir Valdek is of the opinion that they can exact vengeance for whatever happened. After all, they have a small clue of the culprit who caused the power surge in the first place. Hearing this, Ravelin turns back to inquire more. He tells her that just 3 hours before the surge occurred, a person vanished without a trace. Thanks to Valdek's personal connections, he was able to track this person down until he found something worth his while. A pendant, one that looks like the Millennium Puzzle from Yu-Gi-Oh! If you ask me. Rovelin can't believe her eyes. This necklace is the symbol of the Black Hour, the dark organization that excels in magic and also intends to conquer the world with its powers. But it doesn't make any sense what they are trying to achieve from the magic tower. Anyway, Valdek strongly suspects that they are involved even though he doesn't know how the Black Hour group managed to invade the tower and cause all to avenge his fallen comrades. Valdek plans to send an extermination squad to annihilate the Black Hour. And because they'll need all the help they can get, he wants to recruit her for the job. And because of what happened today, Valdek is convinced she's ready to join as the Scarlet Mage is seething with anger. Damned be anyone who stands in her way for taking Verdun away from her. What a scene. Now let's fast forward a few days ahead and see what's going on in the Pyth territory. Here at the Adventurers Guild, Verdun is quietly enjoying his tea. The man sitting in front of him feels enormously guilty, apologizing for the whole incident regarding the orcs. But even after sending their own gold-rank adventurers, they realize that they were unsuccessful in handling the threat. Our boy is chill with it and doesn't complain much. As his reward for the subjugation mission, he receives a note. The mage scans every word, realizing that they are paying him extra for the bounty placed on the new orc's head, the one that was impossible to kill. Thanks to that, the total amount for his reward stands at a towering 24 million elk. Deducting taxes, which funnily enough, every story seems to glance over, his amount is cut in half, so he's gonna receive 12 million elk to his name. The representative of the guild reminds him of the taxation fee, which shoves all those that are unregistered through the guild under the bus. This means that he could have easily offsetted the taxes if he was officially part of the guild. Unfortunately, this fee can't be waived in his case even if he performed a miraculous feat. That's why the charges are strict. I find it hilarious though that in the next scene, the same dude is telling him about a way to dodge the tax, but it's not anything illegal. It's just an invitation to join the guild. This way, Verdun won't have to deal with heavy cuts because their guild specifically has a lower tax rate for high-ranking adventurers. And in our boy's case, he'd directly start from silver rank because of his head start accomplishments. Unfortunately, even though the offer seems attractive here, it doesn't make sense for the mage because it will greatly hinder his plans for the future. In fact, there's something even more important to him than the money he's getting. So like a psychopath, he calmly rejects the proposal, accepting the tax cut. Verdun places his priorities on top. Dude wants to become strong enough to take his revenge. He doesn't want to become Andrew Tate and just sit on his millions for now. Verdun's internal reflection is interesting. He regards his experiences in the magic tower from the time he was being used as a test subject. Despite those long agonizing 7 years, the one thing that didn't change about him is that he's still a mage at heart. So he goes to the guild's storage area, believing that his path as a mage should invite mysteries and research more than anything. Hence, he's brought the dead body of the special orc variant that he killed, the same creature that was too hungry to die. Only this time, dude's gonna be a full-on surgeon and see what made this monster so special. What's interesting to Verdun is how the monster's remains haven't decomposed. That's mostly thanks to an artifact used by the guild preserving the state of the creature. I have to point out the way this story answers small yet critical questions like these is really entertaining. Well, at the same time, the stench coming from the artifact is so bad that our boy is about to faint. Anyway, he checks on the orc's condition, observing its red pupils and its reddish skin, both of which are a sign of normalcy. However, the creature's uniqueness starts off from its torn mouth, giving that Joker smile that you never want to see in your nightmares. On top of that, it's got an incredibly powerful physique compared to the others. While this physique is special in its own class, when it comes to higher-level monsters like the Orc Warriors or the Orc Lords, it's still not remarkably special. The same goes for the monster's intelligence. While smart, it's not the most cunning or clever of creatures. From the looks of it, Verdun is of the opinion that this isn't a case of monstrous evolution, but rather a case of mutation. Even though it makes sense to call it a mutation, he's still not fully convinced of his own conclusion, drawing an unsure expression on his face. The reason he's unsure is actually because of the fact that the orc's regeneration ability is still really tough to explain. Then the strength gained on top of its consumption ability makes it even more ambiguous as to what it is. While inspecting the creature's body, Verdun is lucky enough to discover a certain scar, which appears to be odd. Here's the thing. Regeneration is supposed to return the body to its previous state. The fact that this same monster was able to withstand our boy's flame spells even with a burned body and chopped off flesh means that it also should have been able to heal a tiny wound without leaving a scar. Something about the scar is suspicious, so Verdun draws an even closer look, concluding that the monster must have received this scar before it gained its regenerative powers. And that means some kind of surgery was performed. After all, the only way demi-humans can acquire powers after their birth was via means of evolution. But with this example, the one conclusion that rises to the top in Verdun's observation is that this creature was artificially created. And if his suspicions are correct, it's the worst situation imaginable for everyone involved. The following day, the knights are here to bid their farewell to the talented mage, referring to him as a savior who deserves a proper send-off. Our boy counters, believing that he's already received far too much support from them. Also, he's acquired the beast hide robe and the ring of circulation as his new artifacts. This helps him with a slight boost in mana capacity and recovery speed. The Knight Commander assures him that he's deserving of all the support. And hearing that, Verdun thanks his friends and bids them farewell, hoping to meet again someday. As he's leaving, they do him a final favor by telling him to visit any brand of the Conrad Merchant Guild as they'll become a great support to him after learning about his relationship with the knights. Verdun heads off shortly after he arrives into the village that borders both the Pyth and Mada's territories. Using Flight Dispel, he dismounts and makes his way into the village. It's the only place that's going to become a safe haven for him to rest and recover for the journey ahead. So he buys an apple and moves on with his way. As he's walking, he hears one of the people venting out their frustration and defeat. Realizing that it's a golden opportunity to collect information, our boy decides to eavesdrop using his Whisper of the Wind spell. The two men are discussing the issue of the goblins who stole the livestock, ending in great loss for them. Not just that. Now they have to put up great money for adventurers to get the job done for them. One of them thinks they should have handled it themselves as it would have saved them money. Unfortunately, the decision was outside of their control from the beginning as the village chief emphasized the job to be handled by the adventurers. They just have to wait for a day and let the big heroes handle the rest even though their fee is costly. Having heard all this fuss about the goblins, our boy wonders why the goblins invaded the village at all. The goblins of this world are quite interesting. They actually start off with small thefts, but eventually raid in large groups to take over entire villages and feast on the people. Think of them like a disease. And to get rid of that disease, the adventurers are called in right away. Verdun thinks it's just standard procedure, so it's nothing for him to worry about. But the moment he's about to leave, the two men start discussing a rumor of a monster being spotted in the forest. Interestingly, the village chief specifically wanted this information to not spread about, but the loudmouth talks about it anyway, thinking no one's around. No one except our boy, that is. Apparently, a guy known as James wanted to set a trap for hunting like usual, but suddenly he found himself drawn to the sound of a wild boar whining about. And then he saw it, a gigantic goblin straight out of your nightmares feasting on the boar. The goblin shed a torn mouth and is described to be larger than an orc. Of course, this sounds absurd, so they don't want the adventurers to know. Out of fear, they'll increase the fee. But our boy's heard all he came to hear. He deactivates the spell and contemplates on the info. The thing that seems striking to him is the description of the creature sharing a torn mouth. In any case, it's a good thing because it is leading him closer to the truth, thanks to his experience of fighting the orc variant. The same day in the forest, a bunch of adventurers are hunting down the annoying goblins like pests, introducing the silver rankers, Myrna and Loke, who appear to be unfazed by the mission. Loke appears to be a teasing person and mocks Myrna for feeling proud of hitting a target just in front of her. These two have some bad tension between them, while the other pair is more serious and wants to treat the mission as such. They are also both silver rank adventurers. Iris learns from Mild about the direction of the goblins. The man suspects that the rest of them must be hiding inside the giant cave, which is a goblin's lair. Before approaching, the astute Iris realizes that they are dealing with hobgoblins, a higher species compared to the normal ones. Even then, the task should be under their control as long as they are careful about their surroundings. The mission rolls into its final phase as the group begins to approach the cave. Iris leads them by commanding the destruction of all the warning devices and the totems. With the totems destroyed, she uses Imbucide as her spell, allowing her team to easily operate within the dark without any problems. She tells them that they won't be needing torches, thanks to the spell. Impressed as always, Loka holds their leader in high regard for always being dependable. With this assurance, the group heads into the dark cave. But as they are making way, the leader finds herself worried about the exit for a moment. It's as if she could feel a hint of mana coming from behind. Of course, she disregards her gut feeling, but unbeknownst to her, her suspicion is correct. There really is someone lurking behind them. Inside the cave, the tiny goblins appear to be worshipping the lives lost they are screeching about until they are attacked from a distance. An arrow pierces through one of them, killing it instantly. With one down, the two swordsmen rush to battle and kill the rest. Even Myrna thinks that things are going too smoothly, meaning they'll be done with this mission soon, but their leader is on guard, believing that they shouldn't loosen up. With the goblins killed, suddenly they hear a loud noise attracting the group's attention. To help scout for them, Myrna decides to go on ahead, and I have to say, I can sense a huge death flag for her. I hope I'm wrong. Iris reminds her to be careful as she heads away. The adventurer ends up discovering a horrific sight. Tiny goblins severed from limb to limb, their bodies scattered and splattered on the ground. The realization shakes her very soul as Myrna is at a loss for words. Locke even comes up to ask what's taking her a while. She can't even form a proper sentence because of the distant horrific sound she keeps hearing. Just up ahead, the monstrous goblin is busy preying on its lesser kind. Its alien-like size dwarfs the adventurers by comparison. They are like ants, busy watching a dinosaur-sized goblin going rabid. Unable to comprehend what's before their eyes, they stare frightened. The seemingly mutated variant is taking great delight in every bite. But even then, the adventurers weren't reported about this creature in the mission details. And this is the part where they make a big mistake, thinking that they can best the creature because all it has is its giant size. Right? Iris explains the plan, ordering Myrna to target the creature's right eye and destroy it. Mild and Loke will act as a distraction until then. They all get into position as Iris will be the final one to finish the creature off with the final attack. The plan swings into motion as the blonde archer whips out 3 arrows and takes her aim from a decisive position. From this angle, the giant goblin seems unaware and frankly doesn't even care. Myrna locks her target. To my personal shock, she successfully destroys the eye. With the monster processing the pain, the two swordsmen jump into action, ready to assault the creature and keep it busy. Locke is ahead of the curve and lunges forth. His attack is a straightforward slash that cuts the goblin's body, but not enough to sever it in half. Even though it's a decent attack, Locke doesn't have time to do much as the giant goblin immediately targets him for his first kill. The team leader and mage, Iris, commands her mana burst spell, unleashing multiple explosive attacks that make their way to the goblin's body and detonate upon impact. With all the pain that the creature has been dealt with, it starts wailing in so much pain that it picks up one of the corpses of the tiny goblins and chucks it like a cannonball. Loke can't believe his eyes. The enraged monster tossed a seriously powerful projectile using its own prey. Things aren't looking great for Iris because she's defenseless, and if this attack connects, she'll be done for. Luckily, that's where our boy swoops right in, activating his air rail spell, protecting Iris as it redirects the goblin just next to her. The creature's body is reduced to a blood splat upon impact, leaving nothing of its flesh behind. Iris falls in despair, having an intimate close encounter with death. Myrna goes on the offensive again, launching more of her arrows and blinding the goblin. Ultimately, the giant goblin falls to the ground, signaling its defeat. Immediately, the group rushes to check on their leader, concerned with Iris's state. But, thankfully, nothing happened to her. If the goblin did hit her, that would have been a different story, and Iris understands that. She can't explain how the trajectory changed just before contact. The good thing is that they completed the mission without any casualties and it's finally time for them to return to the village for a reward. Things actually turned out way smoother than I thought, and even Verdun, who is secretly helping them, thinks that everything was resolved peacefully. Bro used his invisibility cloak, channeling the spirit of Harry Potter, and follows them around. This way, he was able to see yet another specimen of the artificial demi-humans. Comparing his experience with the previous test subject and then this one, Verdun points out the similarity. These creatures have a torn mouth on them carving a demonic smile. It's because of that fact that he refers to them as the jesters. However, the giant goblin appears to be different from the typical case of jesters, because not only did this creature lack enhanced physical strength, it was also unable to regenerate or grow more powerful by devouring its own. This leads to the idea that maybe this creature is a failed experiment among the jesters. At the same time, our boy is left with a positive impression of the mage Iris, the one leading the group and currently running a final check on the goblins. He understands that she possesses sharp judgment and a good sensitivity to mana. The fact that she could sense his mana outside the cave is impressive enough. Despite his secret contribution, our boy couldn't find anything notable in the end. Suddenly, his attention snaps to a person who was surprised to find a few visitors in his cave. This man's uniform is different from the usual adventurer, causing Iris to stay on guard and demand for his identification. She warns him not to come any closer. The man amusingly apologizes to them even though they are the ones who barged in the place he was supposed to look after and ruined everything. He's surprised that the goblin managed to build a totem while he was away even though he specifically wanted this cave to be kept in secrecy. Unfortunately, the obvious placement of the totem exposed the goblin's hideout. The man appears disappointed that even after manipulating the creature's brain, he wasn't able to find much luck in making it completely obedient. Can I just say that this guy is acting way too chill for the situation he's in? That's how you know this dude's a psychopath. He's even asking them about any strange observations about the goblin or any unusual behaviors they observed. But when they don't give him any response, bro is even more disappointed because it confirms that the creature was just ordinary at the end of the day. He thinks his professor will be mad after hearing about this. Bro loves to talk. He's dropping a lot of air balls because no one's entertaining a response. The guy thinks that he can't do much in this situation except start over. Ultimately, he confirms that the 4 adventurers will meet their deaths here. This prompts Iris's group into battle mode. She's curious how he's planning to fight them all while being outnumbered, but this guy appears to have some kind of anti-jump spell from the Heian era which Tsukuna could have really used in his final battle. Anyway, he's not planning on letting them go because they ruined his experimental research, but it's not like he was planning to let them leave alive if it was a different outcome. Basically, entering the cave signed their death sentence. Iris strongly opposes the idea of fighting, stating that they will keep their mouth shut about everything that went down. However, the distrusting man thinks that the guarantee isn't there and takes out his sword. Just like I said, he really is a psychopath because he doesn't care much about the experiment. All he cares about is slaughtering them in cold blood. He walks up to them, hoping to pick his first kill. Verdun breaks his silence and tells the scumbag that he's the only one who's gonna die here. At first, the guy tries to ridicule Iris again until he hilariously realizes that the voice came from behind him. Before he can even react, bro gets hit with a heavy spell launching him straight into the wall. The mage officially reveals himself believing that this wannabe tough guy should pack it up because he's outmatched. Purely aura farming and giving us a performance, Verdun prepares another lightning spell to take him down. In his mind, Verdun never intended to reveal himself like this. But if he hadn't, then the adventurers, who were exhausted from their previous battle, would have all been annihilated at the hands of this evil man. From the situation he just observed, the man called this dead goblin a test subject. And not just that, there's also some professor involved according to the man's own words. This confirms his suspicions. The creatures known as the Jesters are related to this guy and his group. Speaking of him, the dude is pissed because our boy just crashed his party. He demands to know Verdun's identity. Instead of giving him a long introduction, he chillingly replies that there's no need to answer such a question and invokes a few magic circles for his next attack. The man doesn't care if the mage is uninterested in talking. After all, he's going to kill him for even daring to attack. Saying so, the evil swordsman lunges forth to close the distance. However, Verdun is already prepared with his multi-flame arrow spell, unleashing bursting projectiles in his way. But his opponent appears to be determined, and not just that. He's extremely skilled, being able to dodge past the arrows with super speed and even unleashing his first attack. If our boy wasn't careful just now, he would have been impaled. But, thankfully, he put his barrier just in time to block the sword. Even then, the magnitude of the attack is enough to put cracks in the defensive barrier. So in retaliation, the mage unleashes his monopole strike, which releases so much force that it sends the swordsman back. So far, Verdun is beginning to think that his opponent is using some kind of magic to reinforce his legs because that explains why he's moving so fast. Not just that, this guy's sword strikes are even faster than any knight in the Python territory. So he outclasses them in both speed and strength, making it a considerable battle for even someone as talented as Verdun. This calls for a change in combat strategy since the current approach isn't working. Just like Verdun is impressed, so is his opponent. The Dark Swordsman takes note of his quick spellcasting and wonders what rank he is. He also thinks it's time to unleash his speed just a bit to overwhelm the mage. Bursting with a lunge even faster than before, he makes his way to cut our boy down. But Verdun welcomes him with his double casting abilities, using Winter Gale and Icicle spells in unison to create a powerful attack. Even the swordsman is startled by the fact that this mage combined ice and wind together. The spell known as Icicle Blast is a result of the combination, and it's a great hindrance as many spikes block the swordsman's path. Even still, he navigates through them without much trouble. Though he's impressed, I have to say the dude is a force of nature. He doesn't want to stop, and is even ready to deal the final blow, thinking that Verdun's talent is useless if he can't hit something with it. But little does he know, he fell right into our boy's trap, because right as he's cutting the mage down, our boy dodges it with a JoJo-esque pose, looking majestic as hell. The entire room is shocked. A mage was able to dodge the attack of a speed-blitzing swordsman. And now for the beautiful ender, Verdun channels Gojo Satoru's aura, and just like Gojo says purple, this man says ignition, unleashing a destructive spell that blows up the space. Unfortunately, the swordsman is able to survive the blast even though he was outsmarted by the mage who lured him in to strike him down. This clearly shows that Verdun isn't just a talented mage, but also a genius tactician. Still, the swordsman thinks that it's useless because the same tactic won't work twice. Realizing that his little gimmicks won't work anymore, Verdun doubles down by saying that he'll start fighting like a proper mage then. First, he uses a spell on the adventurers just behind, using his manipulation of the ground to erect a tower from the earth. Iris is startled and so is her group, not knowing when it will stop. It actually does stop, but by the time it does, you can call it a cliff with that height. Iris quickly realizes that Verdun used terrain manipulation even though it costs a great deal of mana, especially when he needs that mana in a dangerous fight like this. Not just that. From her observation of his double casting ability, she's starting to believe that he's got a giant-ass pool of mana inside of him because whatever he's doing is beyond the abilities of a normal mage. She straight up says that his fighting style is completely unorthodox and unique. That's right, folks. Because it's not even a meme anymore. Verdun really do be moving like Gojo with the way he's looking down on his opponent. The swordsman thinks that flying in the air is a cowardly move for a mage, especially when he thought more was to come, but then the realization clicks in his mind. Sure, Verdun used flight to move to the air, but that begs the question why he risked expending an immense amount of mana to secure the adventurers up top. As he glances at his own reflection into the water, he realizes that the ignition spell from before caused the icicle shards to melt. Get ready for a pure masterclass on strategy because the next attack is going to be everything. Verdun readies himself while the swordsman starts shivering in the realization of what's going on. Even Iris is at a loss for words. The astounding mage unleashes a full release of lightning magic as a thunder pulsates from his being. It's a type of magic so rare that only a rare exception of professors at the Magic Academy can use it. Invoking the third rank, Verdun roars down the spell Thunder Strike upon his opponent. This reminds me of Sasuke's lightning dragon spell, Kirin. The guy shudders in extreme pain, questioning if he's facing Zeus out here. The fact that this guy used 3 basic elements and even the advanced element of lightning. Speaking of triple casting, Verdun uses all 3 of those elements to attack the stunned swordsman. The attack results in destruction, raising smoke and dust. By the end of that strike, Verdun descends from the air, interrogating the pathetic state of his opponent, inquiring about the variant orc he encountered in the Pyth territory. Now he's curious if everything is connected to this professor figure. The slanting-blooded swordsman body trembles, but he still musters the ability to speak and express his shock, realizing that Verdun is the one responsible for annihilating the orc variant. Even in his state, a malicious smile comes over him as he questions if Verdun came from the Ark. This is surprising even for the mage who doesn't appear to have any knowledge of it. The swordsman thinks it's alright if he doesn't know what the Ark is. He just wants to be killed, especially when his body is bent in more ways than I can count. Verdun prolongs his torture and urges to know about the professor, stating that he's interested in the experiments they are conducting. Of course, the swordsman fully understands that it would be detrimental to his group if he shares information on the professor. So he baits Verdun by spitting out a final attack, hoping that they both die in this instance. The projectile is quick and thought it was a clever tactic. Our boy easily blocks it with his barrier. Realizing that this is what he's gonna get from the swordsman, our boy puts him out of his misery with his Earth Shatter ability. What a gruesome end. And yet despite getting this far, he still didn't get to know anything about the jesters. As for the adventure group, these guys are out here intimidated by the mage. They are on guard as his looming figure orders them to work for him from now on. In the very next scene, we jump ahead to the part where Iris collects the additional compensation reward from the village chief for clearing the mission. Also, she made sure to threaten the villagers for failing to report the mutated goblin's involvement. And just to keep her quiet, the village chief threw in an additional $1 million. It's good money, and she thinks that they've paid their dues, which means they can part their ways now with the mage. However, our boy stops them and hands them a cut, stating that it's their deserved commission fee for the next mission. After all, they'll be heading to the city of Martis from this village, and is gonna need her help. Shortly after the incident, they began their journey to Mart's city. The party leader, that being the mage Iris, was obsessed with him during their travels, wanting to know about his knowledge of elemental theory and magic. It's not like she was an annoying person, so he entertained her with a good conversation. But before long, they were already in the city. Knowing that this place is huge, Verdun thinks that it must surely have a banking system. After all, he's got several reports to inform the Adventurers Guild. Iris inquires where he wants to go first. He shares his intentions of opening a bank account as well as taking care of the bounty. For that, she recommends heading to the city hall. Iris guides him right away because she knows this place from top to bottom. The hilarious reaction comes from the rest of her group. They can't believe that she's acting so chill around the same dude who murdered the swordsman without any hesitation. Aside from that, let's talk about the bounty rewards. They are all handled via the Mart City Hall. Unfortunately, Verdun was about to get in trouble for not having an ID on him because he's yet to create one after he switched bodies. Luckily, though, thanks to the guarantee he received from Baron Pyth, no one asked him shit. Even the guard ended up being stumped and allowed him to enter. Aside from that, when news of him impressing the Baron Pyth spread about, they are shown great hospitality because of his acts. The man before them thanked them greatly for saving the Pyth territory, mainly because his family lives there and Verdun indirectly secured their safety. Not just that, the mage is granted with an official ID too to commemorate his achievements. Thanks to that, he was able to open his bank account, so everything took care of itself. Of course, he's got a second account in Varente already, but the moment he places any transactions from it, the town master will hunt for him and connect the dots. Our boy can't risk being careless for now. Up next, he goes up to a blacksmith, requesting his wand to be converted into a staff. Of course, it's going to take some time and materials to craft into perfection, so a time of 3 days is requested. In the meantime, the blacksmith hands him an amazing-looking staff with a purple jewel on it. Iris wonders if he takes a liking to them over wands. The thing is, because he was treated like dirt in the magic tower, they forced him to use brooms to sweep. That's how he got into the habit of using a staff. He doesn't tell Iris any of this information and simply moves to their next location, the Mardes Public Library. This place is supposed to have great books on enchantment magic around. Iris confirms this, but she still thinks the books will be far below his level. To her shock, Verdun expresses his interest in basic books and desires to have all of them. Again, she's shocked by his unusual request. Shortly afterwards, the poor girl has to bundle a tower of basic spell books. Even the receptionist is like, what the actual F is going on? Our boy tells him to charge all fees on his bank account for renting the books, and he would also like them delivered to the top floor of his hotel. When the receptionist asks how many books he wants delivered, Verdun hilariously responds, expressing his interest in all of them. Both him and Iris are at a loss for words at this point. The costs aren't that much of a problem for a boy as he received his bounty money already. He successfully made a bank account and had a staff made along with all the books rented. By the end of their day, Iris is a sloppy mess, completely exhausted. But our boy is doing just fine reading his books. The party leader still doesn't know the kind of man he is and curiously asks if he met all his destinations well. Verdun ambiguously replies that it's enough for today, which is terrifying because it means she'll have to help him navigate even more places. Realizing that she never even asked his name, she wonders what he would like to be called by. Using Asher as his alias, he doesn't care much about names. Iris promises to call him Asher so long as he also treats her casually. Sensing a great opportunity, the girl decides to ask her the one question that has been bothering her the most. Just what was he doing in that cave? This is bad. You can see it in our boy's expression that he really doesn't wanna answer that one. He can't make the excuse of saving them by sheer coincidence, so he decides to go with a general excuse. Verdun drops his formal tone and reveals that he was hunting his target. Realizing that it's actually the swordsman that he's talking about, she quickly reflects on their conversation regarding the professor. It makes her wonder if his role is like a secret investigator who is hunting down a corrupt organization. Unfortunately, our boy admits that he didn't get much information from the hunt, but is glad for her help for the day. She helps him out by escorting him back to his hotel. The night comes by and she bids him farewell. Iris lets out a sigh of relief. She's finally done helping him around. Exhausted, she takes some rest on a bench, realizing that she's dealing with one strange man. But the fact that he can possess multiple elemental attributes all at once and at the same time carry an absurd amount of mana makes him special in her eyes. Aside from that, even for his age, he's got an insanely good grasp on the fundamental theory of magic, even better than some of her professors. Complimenting our boy ends up in her drooling over his looks. I mean, he is textbook Gojo with slightly longer hair. Then again, she finds it hilarious that he's completely dry and unentertaining in his conversations. It's like speaking with an inanimate object. Iris is out here getting butterflies just thinking about him and has to stop herself for it. Comparing him to the rest of the mags that graduate from the Magic Academy, she concludes that Verdun is the most skilled of them all. He's the definition of a talented individual. Determined, she prepares herself to bother him even more about magic. Shit goes from 0 to 100 when a giant explosion wipes his hotel and engulfs it in flames. Iris's expression turns to despair, seeing the place burning away from the top floor right where he is supposed to be. Suddenly, a certain man's silhouette starts appearing from the column of flames. To her absolute horror, it's him. It's Asher, and he's got a real angry look on his face. The scene cuts to the supposed professor who freshly hears us about the news of Serrigan's death. You know, the guy with the sword. Unfazed, the professor asks about his killer and learns that there were some traces of offensive magic discovered inside the cave. This implies a murderer is unknown. But before the dude even finishes his sentence, the professor shatters a glass on his head, stating that there's no point in playing the fool in this situation. In an assertive bone-chilling tone, the professor pierces his glare and repeats his question. This time, the henchman explains that they've yet to lock down on a suspect, but they've acquired some evidence of a party that raided the cave upon the villagers' request. The professor finds this extremely disappointing news. The loss of Sargon is grieved by him because he was one of the more reliable people around. He also comes to discover that the test subject has also been killed. The remains of the goblin have been erased as well as Sergen, but the professor doesn't care about that. He's just pissed that they were unable to track down the man who killed Sergen. The fact that 2 of his trusted test subjects from the Pyth territory were lost in a row, and then the goblin and Sergen are also killed. Even though the results of his experimentation are about to reach completion, the professor is starting to think that maybe the outside world is catching on to them. This time, he orders the man to kill the perpetrator for good. Though he obeys quietly, the dude is seething on the inside because of the professor's attitude. He fully intends to make a statement by returning with the head of the man responsible just to shut his old ass up. And then let's go back to a few minutes before the explosion happened. Verdun found himself reading about basic magic spells while his spy was actually observing him quietly. As he stumbled about reading the books, finding them inefficient for the most part, the spy thought that he would easily kill Verdun the moment he went to sleep. But all of a sudden, the room went quiet. That's until Verdun chanted Earthbone as a spell, scaring the crap out of the guy as he flew in fear. With his position exposed, he takes to the high ground, unable to comprehend how he was detected despite his stealth ability, and that leads us to the current situation. The vicious Verdun is locking down on his target among the crowd. The spy is scared like hell and wants to make a run for it, and he also can't believe that our boy had the balls to pull off an explosion spell in a public hotel. Having confirmed his 3rd-tier magic status, he intends to retreat. My majestic blue-eyed king simply hovers in the air like a god. In order to fabricate his escape, the man stirs chaos by calling the mage a terrorist, labeling him as the enemy. This gets the crowd panicking. Chaos ensues as Verdun finds himself astonished. He's dealing with an assassin that bypassed his magic detection spell. The only reason our boy was able to catch him was because of the assassin's own mistake. Having erased his presence fully again, Verdun finds him quickly, arguing that to erase oneself completely makes them even more obvious. It's like a black hole on a piece of paper. It stands out. The mage roars down a spell and catches the guy with the attack. Even the assassin is having a hard time understanding how this man was able to use Manhwa logic to find him over here. He's frightened to the point he compares Verdun to a monster, a creature that doesn't care about the well-being of the civilians as he throws around dangerous spells. It would be right to consider Verdun ruthless in battle because this man prepares yet another magic arrow circle and unleashes it upon the fleeing assassin. Unfortunately, the assassin breaks into a building so that he can shelter himself from any aerial attacks. This forces the mage to dispel and return to the ground. He follows inside, realizing that his opponent deliberately picked a place packed with drunk vagrants. Right away, the people here are acting suspicious even though Verdun just wants to know about the guy who ran through the place. The bald head tells him that if he wants any information, he'll have to put up a valuable price for it. Realizing that he's at a lost cause here, our boy turns his attention back to his surroundings, assessing that there aren't any exits around. Right as he's thinking that the assassin's inside, the swordsman tears through the bald head's chest. His strategy was to clearly surprise Verdun by attacking him through a vagrant. A brutal move, yes, but also a cowardly strategy in his eyes. Unleashing his shockwave spell, he sends the assassin flying, forcing some distance between them. But even so, this much isn't enough to take out this guy. He blocks most of it with his blade and assesses the situation. Knowing that ordinary mags are incapable of attacking and defending at the same time, the assassin's strategy hinges on forcing Verdun to open a magic barrier, and in that moment, he'll use a smoke bomb to get his ass out of the location. But our boy's ready for that smoke. The assassin openly lunges to strike him down, hoping for the exact moment that his opponent will cast open a defensive barrier. To his utter shock, the response from the mage is not defense, but rather an offensive spell. He uses Earthbone in place of a barrier, completely putting the assassin off guard. With a lump of mana concentrated on the edge of his staff, the overwhelming mage powers up his crystal, making the assassin realize that he's dealing with a mage that doesn't even lose in close quarters combat. From everything he's observed so far, the assassin is damn certain that he's dealing with someone who possesses the caliber of a war mage, which is a sick-ass title if you ask me. The charged staff strikes the assassin's abdomen with so much force that it forces blood out of him, but that's not enough. There's also dessert in the form of Earthbone spell. The assassin thinks he's cooked for good. In a desperate clinch, he uses the smoke bomb and creates a window to escape. Verdun quickly gets rid of the smoke using his whirlwind ability, but by the time he does that, the assassin is already gone. All he needed was a second to use Batman's secret disappearing technique. Things ended up in shit, and they only get worse from here because the guards of the city are all gathered to arrest the arsonist responsible for blowing up the hotel. I'm starting to consider him a newbie superhero who is reckless and doesn't know how to control his powers or prevent collateral damage. The news reaches the ears of the city mayor who can't place a finger on how the hero of Pyth territory is suddenly the terrorist of Marty's city. Henry is informed that the mage Asher says that he was attacked by someone who tried assassinating him in his inn, which led to complications. Furthermore, they've drawn a relationship between this incident and another involving a murder of an adventurer in their guild. Hence why the guild master of the city, Oscar, personally decided to oversee the situation. Mayor Henry realizes that the mage must be feeling quite annoyed, having just stepped into the city and already being attacked. As for the damages, it's clear that the top floor of the hotel has been destroyed to a considerable amount. There's also a reported death of a criminal, the same vagrant who was in the building. The assassin is linked to both of these damages and is currently being tracked down. Not just that, they've also received a personal testimony proving Asher's innocence. An adventurer shared that Asher found a mutated goblin and also defeated a dangerous swordsman in the cave. But when people arrived to investigate the cave, there was no mention of the goblins. Not even any corpses were left behind. It was empty. This information is truly significant as the cave was wiped clean. Mayor Henry realizes that all of these incidents must be linked with one another, and the fact that they are being covered up to such lengths suggests the work of an evil organization that specifically hunts down adventurers. He wonders if there are any more reports of incidents like these. To that, Oscar reveals that they've already attempted giving Asher a bodyguard. However, because of what happened the other day, someone has maliciously spread the rumor of Asher being the mastermind behind the terrorist attack. That's why no one wants to protect him, deeming him evil and untrustworthy. It's a frustrating situation even for the mayor. His only option left is to speak to his personal knights for the job. And so the following day, at the Mart City Hall, our boy found himself amazed by his new staff. I have to say it looks amazing too. With his equipment ready, our boy is ready to rumble. But right then, a knight comes along and finds him. Jason is the vice captain of the knights and has been assigned the role of protection for the mage. From first glance, even Jason can't shake off the feeling that Verdun is the rumored crazy mage. Speaking of our boy, he realizes that the mayor no longer suspects him if they are assigning him a bodyguard like this. However, what's interesting about Jason particularly is his youthful looks as well as his talented third-tier swordsmanship. Verdun wants to leave the city hall's reception, but Jason thinks he should agree to the condition of letting him tag along first. Considering it an unfortunate situation, he agrees to take the knight along. But this attitude humiliates the vice captain because it implies that the mage is looking down on him. After traveling for half a day, Jason is starting to get really frustrated and questions where the hell it is they are going. Funnily enough, our boy reminds him that he can go wherever he likes. His bodyguard must follow him after all. But the young vice captain finds it annoying that they've walked for hours without any objective. Luckily for him, they've finally arrived. The place which they journeyed for many hours is here, and it appears like a shabby old building with nothing special about it. The vice captain can't believe they wasted all that time just to stand in front of it. Right as is inquiring about their objective, Verdun literally blows the building up. This man doesn't not give a flying fudge. Imagine there were people inside. Michael Bay should consider hiring him. The vice captain shudders in shock, having witnessed the mage annihilate a building with magic without any thought. The mage expresses that he came here to find someone, specifically the scumbag assassin who tried to murder him the other day. Jason asks to confirm the assassin's location, only for our boy to confirm that is somewhere around here. From their fight the other night, the intelligent mage briefly touched his body and left a spell on him. It's a unique spell that he learned recently, allowing him to create mana links and flows throughout locations. It's called Trace, formerly considered as tracking magic. The fact that his spell is still up and running means that the assassin has no idea it is placed on him. That's a good thing for the mage, though, because with this, they managed to uncover a secret underground passage. Furthermore, the mana flow of his spell tells him that the assassin went down there. Based on the scale, Verdun figures that the underground passage must lead to somewhere outside of the city. He also learns that none of the knights or the people of Mart City appear to be aware of this secret tunnel, even though they've been trained to minimize all secret locations. And yet, this place wasn't considered one of them. Pieces start to fall inside his head as Jason connects the dots of the purpose of the tunnel and realizes that the city is at risk of an enormous security breach that can happen at any time. Immediately, he whips out his blade, urging that they seal the passageway at once, but the mage isn't quite finished yet. Although sealing the tunnel is important, what's even more important is following the assassin that escaped. Well, Jason argues that they should call for backup in a situation like this, but Verdun thinks that if they wait too long, the assassin will escape. They have to make haste in the present, and saying so, he descends into the tunnel, leaving the knight at a loss for words. He thinks Verdun is acting far too chill towards a vice-captain of the city. Yet again, it seems like the mage is underestimating Jason's abilities. Pissed off, he too jumps inside the tunnel, believing that all mags have the same annoying attitude on them. Speaking of which, remember the assassin that escaped? He's currently pacing around slowly with Vegeta's broken arm pose. The guy's mulling over the fact that he wasted a shit ton of time loafing around. Right after he escaped from the battle, it took him some time to recover and heal his wounds. He also made sure to cover his own tracks, so no traces were left behind. That's why he stayed here for long. But with the way he's handling this situation, he's certain that his terrifying boss will kill him. He's so frightened by that thought that he considers running away to someplace safe. But how will that make a difference? Because an organization like the Fangs of Gluttony will claw him down anyway. The best he can do is hope for the professor to take mercy on him. A while later, the assassin shows up before the professor, who doesn't seem to be in a pleasant mood. The news of the Mart City incident blew all over the place to the point even he knew about it. The professor's crashing out, pointing out the sheer stupidity of his servant who made such a spectacular performance that the entire city is now made alert. Hilariously, he thinks that this guy is the shittiest assassin because he couldn't even do his job right by keeping it low. In order to hear his side fully, he demands for a full explanation on what happened. The guy starts off discussing how he went to Mardes City and checked with the Department of Transit to uncover Verdun's location. Though he set up an ambush attempt, his clever opponent located him and used a destructive spell that brought the situation into the face of the city. He did his best hiding among the crowd, but the persistent mage stubbornly chased after him. A smoke bomb saved his life and caused a retreat. Hearing this, the professor is not pleased at all. He also thinks that Verdun would have chased after the assassin if not for the fact that the knights of the city confronted him at an unfortunate timing, stopping his hunt. But even then, the professor is not having it. He thinks that there's a deeper goal associated with the mage that stopped his hunt. The realization finally overcomes him. There was an intentional reason why he let the assassin run away like that. Immediately, he tells the idiot assassin to take off his armor and burn it to the ground. The assassin doesn't even know what's up and follows the order, burning the armor at once. The burned armor reveals traces of mana, calling back the assassin's critical mistake. When he was struck by the staff, Verdun casted an additional spell on him. The professor goes ballistic, realizing that their location has been uncovered. They have to leave right away, securing the specimen and destroying everything else. But, unfortunately for them, our boy makes his explosive entrance right away, realizing why his trace spell stopped working. He's glad that his enemies managed to uncover his secret plan, but it won't matter anymore. After all, they've been found and there's no way for them to escape. The cat and mouse chase is done. Assessing the threat level of the situation, Verdun immediately notes that the guy in front of him is the assassin that attacked him, and the old man standing behind him, based on the clues that he received along the way, certainly has to be the professor linked to all the experiments. Finding himself in a pinch, the professor finally stands off against the crazy mage. He can't believe that the Ark would send in such an insane person from their side. Annoyingly enough, Verdun can't fathom why the Ark is constantly brought up whenever he confronts these people. It's like the situation from the cave. He wants to extract all the information he can get, but his immediate job is to knock the both of them down first. So he uses Earth Spear to catch them off guard. Well, the assassin steps in front to block the spell. The professor is still mad that his idiot subordinate messed up things all the way to the point their enemies are at the door. With a situation like this, the professor tells him to stall for time while he can move his plan forward. Verdun doesn't want his ass to be running away, so he casts more magic arrows to quickly catch him. Unfortunately, they are all blocked by the assassin, who proves to be a diversion for his master to run off. He can't risk failing more than he has already. Even though he blocked a weakened version of his attack, Verdun thinks that if he goes too far, he might end up killing the guy, and he doesn't want to lose his chance of obtaining information. Right now, he's in a pinch. He has to capture without killing. The assassin goes on to unleash his sword against the vice captain, who defends himself capably. Jason instructs Verdun that he'll handle things here, allowing the mage to push past and chase the professor. Without wasting a breath, this man literally flies ahead looking like a Dragon Ball Z character over here, making Jason regret helping him because bro didn't even say thank you and just left. Despite bursting with incredible speed, Verdun just can't find the professor. Only little time has passed, so it doesn't make sense for him to have escaped too far. Suddenly, is startled by a disgustingly strong stench. It's the stench of rotting corpses. The mage confronts the professor at last, who appears more confident and sinister than ever before. He knew his subordinate would fail to stop the crazy mage, but is glad that Verdun came anyway because he's been dying to show the world his creation. In the giant cage behind him rests an army of torn-mouthed creatures, the jesters. The mage comes to terms with this situation and realizes that this insane professor created hordes of these monsters at once. The name Jester appears to be a mockery of the professor's intent. He claims his creations to be his personal evolutions. However, the creatures are still considered failures that aren't fully perfected. They don't meet the standard he's aiming to reach, and yet he thinks they'll be more than enough to stop one mage. So he goes all crazy and frees them from their cage, sending a group of gigantic orcs and goblins in his way. With the creatures fast approaching him, the mage realizes that he'll have to deal with these guys all night if he beats them one by one. So he goes for the smarter approach, combining water and thunder magic, invoking double casting again, and unleashing Thunder Wave as an eruptive spell. This spell casts a crashing wave of water and pairs it with thunderbolts, practically clearing the enemies in large scale. It even catches the professor and brings him down, causing him to express his annoyance. Having observed his abilities personally, the professor is having his "oh shit, I'm fucked" moment because this isn't an ordinary third-tier mage. From the way he's controlling his powers, this guy appears to be a fourth-tier magician of the highest caliber. He's literally destroying all the mutations without much trouble. Having spent decades researching and crafting these monstrous psychopaths, it's absurd that everything is about to end in the span of a few minutes. In a desperate attempt to save his life, he taps open a secret door and enters the room where his ultimate specimen is being kept inside a chamber. This creature is the professor's finest creation, a masterpiece that terrifies me the more I look at it. Bro's got an hourglass body that girls would die for. I wonder what his workout routine is. Verdun quickly catches up to the cowardly professor, who can't believe that the mage annihilated all of his test subjects so fast. Our boy casually admits that he burned them all, so there's no way to run now. The professor finds the whole situation ridiculous. Even though he deemed them his failed test subjects, they were still powerful in numbers. One mage shouldn't be enough to kill them all, not so quickly. With this accomplishment alone, he's dead certain that Verdun is in the fourth-tier caliber for a mage. Speaking of our boy, he's intrigued by the sight of the creature being preserved in the chamber. The professor's nervousness is replaced by his pride. He's never been more proud of a creation before. This creature is dubbed Gluttony, the very symbol of their group and their ideology. It's the ultimate life form that devours everything in sight to become more powerful. Verdun gets chills when he hears that this creature is supposed to be the future of humanity. He can't risk things to get out of control and slices off the professor's arm. Finally, a protagonist who tries to eliminate a threat before it awakens. Even then, it's unfortunate for him because despite his wailing screams, the professor had already pressed the button before his arm was cut. Lo and behold, the abomination known as Gluttony. Man, if this creature is supposed to represent humanity's future, sign me the heck out. Verdun finally realizes the professor's plan, who is laughing victoriously, pointing that the mage's immense mana reserves will be the end of him. Because Gluttony, he's staring at a 5-star meal full of mana over here. The creature uniquely displays a capacity to speak, sharing its hunger. Verdun is caught off guard as Gluttony spasms out of control with chaotic energy. The salivating monster has already locked its target down, aspiring to eat the delicious meal. Chat, is this monsteries? I know I said Verdun's like Gojo, but damn, even the monsters out here want his stuff. In all seriousness, when Gluttony unleashed a wave of energy, it enhanced its body immensely. In the span of a few seconds, this creature is already channeling abilities that surpass years of a human's training. The fact that an artificial being can use such powers is beyond him. Not just that, Gluttony is literally going ballistic, only targeting the weakest parts of our boy's defensive barrier, exposing every opening imaginable. It's not a surprise that the professor holds this creature as his finest creation. Admittedly, even Verdun finds the research interesting. At the same time, he's not catching the fraud allegations anytime soon. So when Gluttony runs up screaming at him again, our boy bitch slaps him a reality check with his staff, shoving him into the nearest wall. Remember, folks, it may be the proudest day of the professor's life after decades of his research, but it's just another Tuesday for our boy. Declaring the creature weaker than him, Verdun awaits his next move. Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.